The way that we treat buildings and their materials is simply not sustainable.
This is a really key question. How do we take what's already here and make certain that we're getting the most out of it?
A huge amount of our landfills are construction debris. And if we can utilize those products instead of putting them back into the earth, we can not only save money, but we can save the environment.
Waste from construction and demolition accounts for, I think it's something like 540 million tons.
Construction Junction, that's what we're set up to do. Construction Junction was started by 3 environmental organizations in Pittsburgh, Conservation Consultants, the Green Building Alliance, and the Pennsylvania Resources Council. And of those 3 organizations, the Pennsylvania Resources Council really spearheaded the effort to launch Construction Junction. Common question people ask, how do we get the material? Where does the material come from? So we basically get material in 3 different ways. People drop off material to us. We have a free pickup service where we will go to people's homes, or we'll go to contractor job sites, or we'll go to stores that have leftover material and we'll pick up that material. And then we also have a small crew that actually will go into buildings and take material out of those buildings before the building gets demolished. So we call that process deconstruction. We take something apart in the reverse order that it was put together. And you can do that with windows and doors, kitchen cabinet sets, all the way up to deconstructing a full house.
Deconstruction doesn't put any lead dust in the air. How deconstruction can catch asbestos that was not found in the building. It was hidden somewhere. When you systematically disassemble the building, you find these things.
It's a great value to the community just because it keeps things out of landfills. Just really putting it in the full cycle all the time. It's just every move that we make, every program that we put out there is all about reuse or community partnership.
The benefits to any individual that would come here and patronize this place is, 1, it controls your cost. 2, it's the condition of a lot of the products that you purchase here. There are some products that will come in that will be new. They come from warehouses where they're donated from other companies and that. And then there's used products that comes in from demolition companies. They'll find a beautiful door. You know, if you got a cherry wood door on a house that's being demolitioned, you understand, you don't want that door to be tore up, but you can come here and purchase that door at a very, very good cost.
The first thing is that it's just a completely unique place. There's no place like it. What you can get here, you can get, dressers for $15. You can get tiling. If you want to remake your own bathroom, this is a place where you can do that.
We were just bulldozing houses and buildings post-war to make way for clean space and eventual redevelopment. There's a lot of buildings, look at Detroit, you know, there's a lot of major tracts of land that have vacant buildings with good stock, with great materials that could be salvaged and definitely need to be thought of as resources versus something to be pushed into the ground.
The concept of reuse, of taking stuff that would otherwise be discarded and finding new uses for it, finding new life for it, is an important one, because the society we live in seems so driven by one-time use or by waste, but especially with building materials, and most especially with older building materials, these things have a life that extends far beyond what the useful life of the building might be.
The primary thing that we want to see is reduction. We want to see people reduce the amount of material that they consume, because there just simply are not enough resources to go around, and we're depleting the Earth's resources at a faster rate than the Earth can replenish those resources. In fact, if every person on the planet achieved the same lifestyle as people in the United States, it would take 5 planet Earths to provide that standard of living to everybody who's on the planet right now.
The concept of reusing materials and first recovering them from the construction and then reusing them means that we will reuse the embodied carbon in these materials. So there is lots of carbon associated with the process itself, and then we throw it away in the end of the use process. Reuse means that that carbon and energy which is put into production of products is being reused.
So with demolition, most of the material ends up in the landfill or it's burned for energy recovery. Deconstruction has a much more environmentally friendly outcome, twice the carbon benefit, because those materials are salvaged for reuse, not for recycling, not for landfill, and not for burning for energy recovery.
We definitely would say that reuse of buildings, the whole building, is the most beneficial from environmental and economic point of view.
If we can do our part to not just salvage materials ourselves, but also to speak this gospel to others and evangelize, in a sense, about the wastefulness of the status quo, but also the environmental and social benefits of keeping stuff out of landfills.
Mechanical demolition has a lot of unintended consequences with hazardous materials, materials going to the landfill, lots of dust. Deconstruction takes a more surgical approach, takes down the building with a lot less dust, better eye on hazardous materials, and then they salvage material for reuse.
It's telling people how you're making those differences, you know? Instead of throwing something out to the trash or to the curb every single week, see what you can bring to another place to donate so somebody else can get use out of it.
And organizations like Construction Junction, that's what we're set up to do, to make it easier for people to make those kinds of choices. Because we've already made it really easy to throw things away. It's cheap, trash cans are everywhere, people come and pick up your garbage every week, all you have to do is set it out on the curb. That's why we offer free pickup, that's why we do deconstruction, that's why we have a facility that's open all the time, that's open 7 days a week to take your material, because we need to make it convenient and easy for people to practice reuse, because we've already made it way too easy to throw things away.
Deconstructing a house produces a lot of material that can be reused. It's high quality, valuable material. A lot of times it's old growth lumber. And you can deconstruct as many buildings as you want, but unless people are purchasing that material and using it in their own homes or on their own projects to build furniture, to create art, then that material doesn't have value. So the best way that a community can support deconstruction and salvage is to purchase that material and really question buying materials brand new. Really think about buying salvage first.
When you start to talk about the volume of materials that get sent to the landfill, even if you're reusing 5% of that number, you're still making a tremendous impact.
So for example, if you took salvaged flooring and salvaged framing lumber, you reclaimed it or you manufacture it. That's the comparison. If you reclaimed it, it would use 11 to 13 times less energy to produce that. If you reclaimed it, it would create 3 to 5 times less greenhouse gases through reclamation. So you can see that it has a lot of benefits when we're doing a comparison, because when you reclaim materials, you don't have to manufacture them new.
The construction Junction deals with is it's making up at a minimum 25% of what goes into a landfill.
The idea of reusing building materials right now is a fairly niche industry. I think in the next 10 or 20 years you'll see it become not just more accepted, but more necessary. And I think you'll see the reuse of building materials become something that it makes environmental sense, it'll make economic sense, and it'll become more accepted into the mainstream.
We need to understand how to design buildings so that they can stay for a longer period of time, that they are resilient and adaptable to different requirements, which are changing all the time. If we manage to do that, then we will save enormous lot of materials, energy and carbon associated with that. So prevention by design is like a top priority for the future.
So sometimes I get asked what government can do to help us in our efforts. And the first thing I always tell them is education. That's not a mechanism to control behavior, like an ordinance would be or something like that. I think the education and really helping us create a message about how great deconstruction and reuse is and all of the benefits of that, and then getting that message out to people.
These are all the things you should do. We want the members to kind of be there to support that. So anyway, we can after this conference. So it's not just once a year we talk about this. But.
And at the end of the day, this place that we've built with people choosing to reuse creates so much more positive energy, so much more positive economic, social, and community activity than a landfill does.